12 Canadian towns. Over 70% of locals say, don't move here. Not a little boring. Not kind of remote. These are places where crime rates spike 2-3x above the national average, where groceries cost up to 40% more than major cities, and where entire streets empty out before dark. And yes, this is happening right now. One of these towns traps residents for months with limited access in winter. Another offers $100,000 plus salaries, but still leaves people living paycheck to paycheck. And one has a reputation so bad, even locals warn their own family not to move there. This isn't the Canada ranked safest in the world. It's the side hidden behind statistics, real estate listings, and tourism ads. Ignore this, and you could walk straight into a decision that costs you years of savings, or worse, your peace of mind. Subscribe before this kind of information gets buried, and trust me, you're not ready for number 1. Let's break it down. Number 12, Churchill, Manitoba. Churchill is the only town where don't go outside isn't advice, it's survival. Because yes, there are actual polar bears walking around. It's way up in northern Manitoba on the edge of Hudson Bay, like no roads in or out remote. Population's around 900. Not 900,000, just 900. On the surface, it's incredible. Northern lights, frozen tundra, most famous polar bear destination. It feels like a once-in-a-lifetime place. And for most people, it should stay that way. Let's break it down. Median home price is roughly $300,000, if you can even find one available. Rent is limited and can hit $1,500 or more. Cost of living? Easily 30 to 40% above the national average. Groceries are flown or shipped in, so yeah, everything costs more. Translation: you're paying premium prices to live in one of the most remote places in North America. But here's what nobody tells you. Polar bears aren't just a tourist attraction, they're a real threat. There are literal bear patrols to keep people safe. Winters are brutally long, dark, and isolating. And if you want to leave, you're flying or taking a that runs when it runs. As one Reddito put it, Churchill is amazing to visit, but living here means constantly respecting the fact that nature is in charge, not you. So what's the trade-off? You get a truly unique, almost surreal lifestyle, but you also get isolation and extreme conditions. You'll see things most people never will, but you'll live with challenges most people couldn't handle. Okay, can we talk about the polar bears for a second? Because this isn't, oh, cute wildlife energy. This is you check outside before stepping out like it's a horror movie. Imagine taking out the trash and thinking, is today the day? Absolutely not. Picture this. Morning, frozen landscape stretching forever, sky glowing with soft northern light. It's silent, beautiful, untouched. Then you spot movement in the distance, big movement. And suddenly, you remember, you are not at the top of the food chain here. Number 11, Nanaimo, British Columbia. Nanaimo looks like a screensaver and costs like a financial mistake. Same ocean views, different reality. It's on Vancouver Island, about a ferry ride away from Vancouver, southwest, technically close to the city, but just inconvenient enough to make everything harder. Population's around 100,000 and growing fast. On the surface, it's stunning, coastal views, mild weather, that laid-back island vibe. It feels like the place you move to start fresh, and then your bank account taps out. Let's break it down. Median home price is around $780,000. Yeah, for a mid-sized town. Rent averages about $2,000, and cost of living is roughly 20% above the national average. That relaxed island life. Not cheap. And homelessness has become more visible in recent years. Translation: you're paying premium prices for a place that's still dealing with real. But here's what nobody tells you. Jobs don't always match the cost of living. Wages can lag behind housing prices. The ferry? Expensive and consuming. And that dream lifestyle? It can start to feel stressful when the math doesn't work. As one Reddito put it, Nanaimo is beautiful, but unless you're bringing money with you, it can feel like you're constantly trying to catch up. So what's the trade-off? You get incredible scenery, milder weather, and a chill atmosphere, but you also get high costs and limited earning power. You'll love the view, but question the price of it. Okay, can we talk about the ferry for a second? Because why does leaving the island feel like planning an international trip? It's expensive. It takes forever. And if you miss it, congrats, you live here now until the next one. Picture this. Sunset over the ocean, soft waves, salty air, everything glowing golden. It's peaceful, almost perfect. Then you check housing prices, and suddenly the vibe shift from dream life to financial horror story. At least Brantford is trying to grow into its prices. Nanaimo's like, no explanation, just vibes and bills. And if you think expensive paradise is the peak of this list, the final town takes isolation to a level that's not just inconvenient, it's straight up dangerous. Number 10, Brantford, Ontario. Brantford is growing fast. Like blink and there's another subdivision fast, but somehow, life isn't getting easier with it. It's about an hour from Toronto, which means it's firmly in that escape the big city zone. Population's around 110,000 and climbing quickly as get priced out of nearby. On the surface, it feels promising. New homes, that up-and-coming energy. It's also known as the hometown of Wayne Gretzky, which is cool, but unfortunately doesn't fix everything else. Let's break it down. Median home price is around $600,000. Cheaper than Toronto, sure, but still a stretch for what you're getting. Rent averages about $1,800, and cost of living is roughly 10% above the national average. Crime? It's been creeping up, especially with the rapid growth. Translation, more people, more pressure, and the city's trying to keep up. But here's what nobody tells you. Infrastructure hasn't caught up with the growth. Traffic's getting worse, services feel stretched, and neighborhoods are changing faster than they can stabilize. It's like the city hit fast forward without a plan. As one Reddito put it, Brantford's growing, but it feels like it skipped the part where things actually improve. So what's the trade-off? You get proximity to bigger cities and at-home ownership, but you also get growing pains in real time. You'll feel the opportunity, but also the, okay, can we talk about traffic? Because how did a this size get this annoying to drive in? I swear, you hit one construction zone and suddenly your 10-minute trip turns into a full documentary. And parking? Good luck. Half the time it feels like a competitive sport. Picture this. Late afternoon, hitting rows of new houses, kids playing, everything looking fresh and hopeful. It feels like the start of something good, until you sit in traffic trying to leave your own neighborhood, questioning every decision that got you here. At least Yellowknife had an excuse. It's literally in the Arctic. Brantford's like, what's ours? Oh, just growth. And if you think expensive and crowded is frustrating, the next place looks like paradise, until you try to actually afford living there. Number 9, Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. Yellowknife has some of the most beautiful northern lights on Earth and some of the most painful grocery bills you'll ever see. Same sky, different suffering. It's way up in the Northwest Territories, like you're basically neighbors with the Arctic North. Population's around 20,000, small but surprisingly stable. On the surface, it's stunning. Frozen lakes, colorful skies, raw wilderness. It feels like an adventure just existing here. And honestly, it is, just not always the fun kind. Let's break it down. Median home price is about $520,000. Yep, in a town this remote. Rent? Around $2,000 a month. Cost of living is roughly 30% higher than the national average. And groceries? Let's just say a bag of basics can feel like a luxury purchase. That's not a typo. That's did I accidentally buy gold? Pricing. Translation. Everything costs more because everything has to travel far to get here. But here's what nobody tells you. Winters bring almost constant darkness. Like, your internal clock just gives up. Isolation is real, and getting in or out isn't cheap. And the cold? This isn't bundle up cold. This is why do humans live here, cold. As one Reddito put it, Yellowknife is incredible for a year or two. Then the darkness and prices start to wear on you. So what's the trade-off? You get unreal beauty, a unique lifestyle, and bragging rights. But you also get isolation and a climate that tests your sanity. You'll see the northern lights, but you'll also see your bank account disappear. Okay, can we talk about groceries? Because why does a single shopping trip feel like a financial crisis? I swear, you grab a few and suddenly you're reconsidering your entire diet. At this point, instant noodles start looking like a smart investment. Picture this. Midnight, but it feels like 6 p.m. because the sky is glowing green and purple with the northern lights. Snow crunches under your boots. The air is sharp, silent, magical. It's breathtaking until the cold hits your face like a warning, and you remember you actually live in this. Number 8. Timmins, Ontario. You could buy a whole house in Timmins for the price of a luxury SUV and still wonder if you overpaid. Yeah, it's one of those places. Timmins is deep in northern Ontario, like Google Maps zooms out twice before you find it north. Population's around 41,000 and slowly declining. On the surface, it's quiet, surrounded by forest, and feels like a classic small Canadian town where life moves slower. It's built on mining and forestry, and for some people, that simplicity is the appeal. For others, it's the... Let's break it down. Median home price is about $280,000. That's less than a starter home in most cities, and sometimes less than what people spend on rent over a few years elsewhere. Rent averages around $1,200, and cost of living is slightly below the national average. Sounds like a steal, right? But then, job opportunities are limited unless you're tied to resource industries. And winters, absolutely relentless. Translation, cheap living, but fewer ways to level up. But here's what nobody tells you. Isolation hits different here. It's not just quiet, it's nothing is happening and nothing is coming quiet. The cold isn't just uncomfortable, it's exhausting. And if you're not from here, breaking into the community can take time. As one Reddito put it, Timmins is affordable, but you really have to build your own life here, because it won't build one for you. So what's the trade-off? You get low costs, space, and simplicity, but you also get limited and a pace that can feel stuck. You'll save money, but you might feel like time slows down a little too much. Okay, can we talk about isolation? Because this isn't I'll just drive somewhere fun isolation. This is guess I live here now isolation. Weekend trip? To the same 3 places you went last weekend? Picture this. Early morning, snow everywhere, trees completely still, sky pale gray. It's quiet, like unnaturally quiet. You can hear your own footsteps crunching. It's peaceful until it starts feeling a little too quiet. Like the world hit pause and forgot to unpause you. At least Regina had stuff to do, even if it was repetitive. Timmins said, what if we remove the repetition too? And if you think isolation is the main challenge, the next place is just as remote, but adds a cost of living that'll make your jaw drop. Number 7. Regina, Saskatchewan. Regina is the kind of city where you can buy a house for a decent price and then immediately wonder what you're gonna do all weekend. Every weekend. It's right in the middle of Saskatchewan, like, aggressively middle. Population's around 230,000 and pretty steady. On the surface, it's clean, organized, and actually looks nicer than people expect. Government jobs, wide open spaces. It feels calm, almost too calm, like the city equivalent of elevator music. Let's break it down. Median home price is about $320,000. That's cheaper than a Toronto down payment, which is honestly offensive. Rent averages around $1,300, and cost of living is about 5% below the national average. Your dollar stretches here. Crime, though, higher than you'd expect for this size, especially property crime. Translation, affordable living, but you stay a little alert. But here's what nobody tells you. It's flat. Like, unbelievably flat. You will miss hills. Winters. Long, freezing, and windy for no reason. And entertainment options? Let's just say you'll become very familiar with your own hobbies. As one Reddito put it, Regina's great if you like routine, because you'll definitely have one. So what's the trade-off? You get affordability, stability, and breathing room, but you also get a slower pace that can feel repetitive fast. You'll save money, but you might spend your time wondering, okay, now what? Okay, can we talk about the wind? Because why is it always windy? I swear, even on a calm day, something is blowing aggressively. Your hair? Gone. Your dignity? Also gone. Walking in a straight line becomes a group project. Picture this. Late afternoon, wide open sky stretching forever, golden light hitting quiet streets. It's peaceful, almost cinematic. Then the wind picks up out of nowhere, your eyes start watering, and suddenly you're fighting for your life just across the street. Hey, at least Regina is affordable. Looking at Windsor, yeah, your wallet's breathing a little easier here. And if you think boring but affordable is manageable, the next town takes cheap and adds a level of isolation that hits completely different. Number 6. Windsor, Ontario. Windsor is the kind of city where you can see Detroit from your window and sometimes feel like the problems cross the river too. Same view, different country. Make it make sense. It's right on the U.S. border, literally across from Detroit. Like, you could wave at America if you felt dramatic. Population's around 230,000 and growing, mostly because people are getting priced out of Toronto and going, this'll do. On the surface, Windsor feels convenient. International access, neighborhoods, and cheaper housing. It's got that up-and-coming label, which is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Let's break it down. Median home price is about $550,000, cheap compared to Toronto, where that buys you a hallway with commitment issues. Rent averages $1,700, and cost of living sits around 8% above the national average. Not outrageous, but not the bargain people expect. Crime is moderate, nothing extreme, but enough that areas have a reputation. Translation, you're saving money, just not as much as you thought. But here's what nobody tells you. The economy can feel shaky, heavily tied to auto manufacturing and cross-border trade. When things slow down, you feel it. There's also a weird identity thing. Like, is it its own city or just Detroit's quieter neighbor? And job stability? Let's just say, not guaranteed. As one Reddito put it, Windsor's fine if you've got a stable job, but if not, it can feel like you're one bad month away from stress. So what's the trade-off? You get location, huge advantage. You get cheaper housing, but you also get uncertainty in a city still trying to define itself. You'll enjoy the access, but question the long term. Okay, can we talk about jobs for a second? Because everyone says opportunity, but then you start applying and it's like, where? Half the listings feel like they were posted during the last economic cycle. And don't even get me started on entry-level jobs requiring 3 years of experience. Sir, what? Picture this. Late evening, skyline glowing across the river, cars passing over the Ambassador Bridge, soft hum of traffic. It feels connected, alive, almost exciting. Then you realize most of that energy is technically in another country. At least Windsor isn't completely isolated. Looking back at Happy Valley, yeah, you can actually leave this one without booking a flight. And if you think Windsor's identity crisis is confusing, the next city is cheaper, flatter, and comes with trade-offs people don't see coming. Number 5. Sudbury, Ontario. Sudbury used to look like the moon, and honestly, parts of it still kind of feel like it. Not even joking. It's about 4 hours north of Toronto, with a population around 166,000, making it one of the bigger cities on this list. On paper, Sudbury should be a win. Lakes everywhere, decent size, real city amenities. It's a major mining hub, especially for nickel, and over the years it's cleaned up its image a lot. Like, a lot. But still, there's a vibe here that people don't always expect. Let's break it down. Median home price is around $420,000, way cheaper than Toronto, where that might get you a parking spot with anxiety. Rent sits near $1,600, and cost of living is just slightly above average. Not terrible, but crime? It's a bit higher than you'd want, especially in certain areas. Translation, affordable-ish, but you don't just wander anywhere at 2 a.m. for fun. But here's what nobody tells you. The industrial feel hasn't fully gone away. Some parts still feel rough around the edges. Winters are long and, like, emotionally draining long. And while jobs exist, a lot still tie back to mining or healthcare. As one Reddito put it, Sudbury's improved a lot, but it still feels like a mining town pretending to be a city. So what's the trade-off? You get space, nature, and a lower cost than major cities, but you also get a place that's still figuring itself out. You'll enjoy the lakes, but you might not love everything surrounding them. Okay, can we talk about winters again? Because Sudbury said, what if winter, but longer? Snow piles up like it's competing for a world record. And by March, everyone looks just a little bit emotionally exhausted. Vitamin D? Never heard of her. Picture this. Early morning, frozen lake, sunlight hitting the snow just right. It's actually stunning. You've got that crisp, everything quiet, peaceful, and then you step into a slushy parking lot, nearly wipe out, and remember, yeah, this is still real life. Hey, at least Sudbury has actual city amenities. Looking at you, Happy Valley, where going out means going home. And if you think Sudbury's identity crisis is confusing, the next place sits right next to a major U.S. city and somehow brings a whole different set of problems with it. Number 4, Happy Valley-Goose Bay, Newfoundland and Labrador. You don't just drive out of this town, because you can't. Flights only. Yes, really. Happy Valley-Goose Bay sits in Labrador, way out on the eastern edge of Canada, like closer to Greenland than Toronto, kind of remote. Population's around 8,000, steady but small. On the surface, it's peaceful, scenic, and surrounded by raw, untouched wilderness. It feels like the kind of place where nothing bad could happen, mostly because nothing happens at all. Let's break it down. Median home price is about $310,000, which sounds reasonable until you remember where you are. Rent averages $1,400, and cost of living is roughly 15% higher than the national average. Groceries? Expensive. Flights? Very expensive. Translation: everything you need has to be flown in, including your sanity some days. But here's what nobody tells you. There's Northwest easy road access to major cities. If something goes wrong, medical, personal, anything, you're booking a flight, not calling an Uber. Winters are long, dark, and isolating. And options? Limited. Like, really limited. As one Reddito put it, it's beautiful and quiet, but after a while, you realize quiet can start to feel like stuck. So what's the trade-off? You get nature, zero crowds, and a slower pace of life, but you also get isolation on a level most people aren't ready for. You'll disconnect from stress, but also from convenience and sometimes people. Okay, can we talk about groceries? Because why does a simple shopping trip feel like a luxury experience? I swear, you grab milk, eggs, and bread, and suddenly you're financially reflecting on your life choices at the checkout. Picture this. Evening, soft snow falling, the sky turning pink and purple over quiet streets. You hear nothing but wind and your own footsteps. It's calm, almost magical. Then your phone loses signal, your options disappear, and it hits you. You're very, very far from everything. And if you think being cut off is intense, the next town proves you don't need isolation to feel a little off. Number 3, Prince George, British Columbia. Prince George has mountains, rivers, and postcard views, and a reputation that just won't die. Same city. Make it make sense. It's smack in northern BC, basically the crossroads of the province. About 8 hours for Vancouver. So yeah, not exactly a quick weekend trip. Population's around 76,000 and pretty stable. On the surface, it's everywhere. Forests, hiking, fresh air. All that outdoors a dream life. It's called the northern capital of BC, which sounds impressive, until you start hearing what people actually say about it. Let's break it down. Median home price is around $470,000, way cheaper than Vancouver, where that might get you a closet with emotional damage. Rent sits near $1,500, and cost of living is just slightly above average. Sounds reasonable, right? But then, crime rates here are higher than you'd expect for a city this size. Not chaos level, but enough that locals definitely notice. Translation: it's affordable-ish, but you stay aware. But here's what nobody tells you. Air quality can get rough because of nearby industry. Like, why does it smell like that? Rough. Winters drag on longer than your motivation. And that reputation, even when things improve, it sticks around like a bad nickname for high school. As one Reddito put it, Prince George isn't as bad as people say, but it's also not as good as the brochures make it look. So what's the trade-off? You get nature, space, and relative affordability, but you also get a that's constantly trying to outrun its own image. You'll enjoy the outdoors, sure, but you might side-eye your surroundings a bit more than expected. Okay, can we talk about the air for a second? Because nothing humbles you faster than stepping outside, taking a deep breath, and immediately regretting it. Some days it's fine. Other days, it's like the forest and had a disagreement and you're stuck in the middle. Picture this. Late afternoon, golden light hitting the trees, mountains in the distance. Everything looks insanely peaceful. You're walking along a quiet trail, crisp air, birds chirping, and then a faint smell creeps in, just enough to ruin the vibe. It's still beautiful, but slightly off, like a filter that didn't quite load properly. And if you think a bad reputation is tough to shake, the next place isn't fighting rumors. It's dealing with being completely cut off from the world. Subscribe because choosing the wrong town doesn't just cost money. It costs years, and nobody tells you that part up front. Number 2, Fort McMurray, Alberta. You can make $100,000 a year in Fort McMurray and still feel broke. Yes, really. No, it's not a scam. Fort Mac is deep in northern Alberta, about 5 hours from Edmonton if the roads behave and your life choices align. Population hovers around 68,000, but it swings depending on oil booms and busts. On paper, this place looks like a gold mine. High-paying jobs, big industry, pulling in serious cash. It's the kind of town where people show up for a few years thinking they'll leave rich, and then somehow don't. Let's break it down. Median home price sits around $380,000, which isn't terrible until you factor in everything else. Rent averages about $1,800. Cost of living, roughly 20% higher than the national average. Groceries, gas, everything hits harder. That six-figure salary starts feeling very mid-translation. You're earning more, but spending like you're in a boss battle every month. But here's what nobody tells you. The economy is basically glued to oil prices. When oil's up, life's good. When it drops, layoffs hit fast. The town is remote, so leaving quickly isn't always easy. And mentally, it can feel like you're living in a work camp with a city attached. As one Redditor put it, you come to Fort Mac to make money, but between rent, flights, and food, it feels like the town's taking it right back. So what's the trade-off? You get opportunity, real, life-changing income potential. But you also get instability, isolation, and a lifestyle that can feel more like survival than living. You might stack cash, or just wonder where it all went. And don't even get me started on food prices. I swear, a bag of groceries here feels like you accidentally added a flat-screen TV at checkout. $8 for milk? Cool. At this point, eating out almost feels like a financial strategy. Picture this. It's early morning, dark, trucks rumbling past nonstop. The air smells faintly like oil and cold metal. You've got coffee in hand, breath visible, skyline glowing against the snow. It feels productive, almost exciting. Then you check your bank account after a grocery run, and suddenly it's less thriving and more, why am I like this? Hey, at least in Fort McMurray, you can make serious money. Looking back at Thompson, yeah, that's one advantage. And if you think high pay with high costs is confusing, the next place has a reputation problem it just can't shake. Number 1, Thompson, Manitoba. They say if you walk around certain parts of Thompson after dark, you're basically volunteering for a bad time. Locals don't laugh when they say it. Thompson sits way up in northern Manitoba, like closer to polar bears than a Costco north. Population's around 18,000, and it's been slowly shrinking, which is never a great sign. On the surface, it's quiet, surrounded by wilderness, and looks like the kind of place where you'd unplug and find inner peace. It's a mining town, built on nickel, and for a second, it almost feels like a hidden gem until reality taps you on the shoulder. Let's break it down. Median home price is about $220,000. That's cheaper than a tiny condo in Toronto, like parking spot cheap. Rent averages around $1,200, and the cost of living is slightly below the national average. Sounds like a dream, right? But then, crime rates here are significantly higher than most of Canada. Violent crime especially. Translation: cheap housing comes with a side of maybe don't go out tonight. But here's what nobody tells you. Winters are brutal. Like, your face hurts in 5 minutes brutal. The town is isolated, so leaving isn't exactly a quick weekend road trip. And the economy? Heavily tied to mining, which means when that slows down, everything slows down. As one Redditor put it, Thompson pays well if you're in mining, but outside that, it feels like you're stuck in a cold loop with nowhere to go. So what's the real trade-off? You get affordability and solid wages if you're in the right industry, but you also get isolation, harsh weather, and a vibe that can feel a little tense. You'll save money, sure, but you might spend your evenings double-checking your locks. Okay, can we talk about the weather? Because this isn't, oh, it's chilly, grab a hoodie weather. This is a step outside and instantly regret your life choices weather. I'm talking minus 30 degrees Celsius like it's normal. Your eyelashes freeze. Your car might not start. And people here, just casually living like that's fine. Also, winter lasts forever. Like, emotionally forever. Picture this. It's 6 p.m. in January. Pitch black. Snow crunching under your boots. The kind of cold that stings your lungs. Streetlights flicker over empty roads, and you can hear almost nothing. Just wind. It's almost beautiful until you realize you're completely alone out there. And suddenly, it's not peaceful, it's eerie. And if you think Thompson's isolation is intense, the next town takes remote living and adds a price tag that'll make your wallet cry.